Welcome students. This is going to be a short video where I'll show you how to do the base chassis for your Lilybot robot that we're going to be building at camp this week. So to start off with, I'm just going to show you the basics for the chassis build. So you're going to need, and you should have already acquired in your kits, a bottom base and a top 3D base that you'll put the robot together with. You'll need 4 of the standoffs, 2 of these caster wheels, 2 motors, 2 wheels, 2 motor mounts that we're going to use to put it together, and then just a bag full of the standard M3 bolts and some nuts. So to get us started, we're going to take that bottom base and we're going to go ahead and put on a caster wheel. So you'll want to put a screw through the bottom of this and then screw it through the bottom of the base. So look at this, where you see these 2 lines, that is where the battery is going to go. This is the top. So you want this to go on the bottom through there, and you're going to put a little nut. And you should all have some form of an Allen wrench or some kind of a tool to help you tighten these down. When it helps, I'll go ahead and pause that video and let you steps. But you'll need 2 of these screws and nuts for each wheel. And these are kind of your balancing, I'll call them, wheels that you need, because these are the non-motorized wheel. So then you'll go ahead and take the other one, and you should see 2 holes on the opposite side across from your other caster wheel, where you can go ahead and put that other wheel in. And it doesn't ultimately matter what color your base is. I got lucky on this one. I got a yellow one. These are kind of rare. Most of them are going to be black or white. So I'm going to pause the video and get these together, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, once you have both of those wheels on there, with the nuts on there, you should be ready to move on to the next step, which is to install your standoffs. And there's all sorts of different kinds of standoffs. These ones are made out of plastic, and then they have little washers in them. So there's 4 holes on your base, on your bottom base here, and there's some mating holes on the top. You want to put the head of the screw through the bottom, and then put the standoff through the top base, and then just hand tighten that. You'll notice it's not going to sit all the way flush. That's okay. These standoffs tend to have a shorter thread distance than we have for these screws, but it won't make your robot any worse for the wear. So just kind of hand tighten by putting those 4 screws in and having a standoff in each one of the 4 outside holes here on your base. So you can see now I've just done the 3rd one, and I need to get to the 4th one. And that is what that's going to look like. And then we're going to move on to the motor mounts. You'll see here these 2 L's that are here. That's where our motor is going to sit. So you should have a motor and a motor mount, a left and a right. And the motors now sit into these mounts. And you're going to want to do it where the holes that are here are on the opposite side as where the wires go, because these wires are going to face on the inside and these holes are going to sit on the outside. So go ahead and find one of your motors, and they are left hand and right hand, and put it in like that, and then take the other one and you'll see that it'll be the opposite way, and push that in so that your holes are sitting, got mine backwards, on the opposite side here as where your wires are. Okay, so now that we have the base and the standoffs, we're gonna go ahead and move to the motor mounts. So you should have 2 of these motor mounts and 2 motors. And you're gonna look for the holes that are on here on the bottom. And you're gonna make sure you've got this wire here, that those end up on essentially the same side. So when we get this hole lined up on the same side as this, we're then going to put wires facing in on our motors, and then there's a little L here. Let's see if you can see that on our robot, and we're gonna flip that over, and you should see underneath 2 holes, and they should line up with the 2 holes on your motor mount, and you're gonna wanna go ahead and screw those in. It could take a minute. These are not always easy to place. So I'm gonna pause my video and do that while you also try and do that. Pause the video and get those screws in. Okay, so let's just review again. So we should have 2 screws now in here. And the important thing is that the wires on the motor are facing inward. So they're facing in this direction because we don't want our wires hanging outside where they can get tangled in the wheel that we're gonna place. And then we're gonna go ahead and do that same thing then where we've got these 2 holes. This one looks like it's actually upside down. And those 2 holes are placed closer to the side with this. And then we'll go ahead and line that up so that our wires are facing inward, and put our 2 screws here in the bottom. So I'll pause again to get those 2 screws in, and then I'll rejoin you. Okay, so now you should have 2 sets of motors, all your motor mounts, and your caster wheels, and you're kind of done with this piece. You just have a few more screws to place to put the top base onto this, and you'll note that there are 4 holes on your top base in those corners, so line those up. It doesn't really matter which way you lined up. You should note that there's like 4 standoffs. That's where your Arduino is going to go on that side, and you'll have a nice breadboard on the other. And it, like I said, it doesn't matter too much. Just get those 4 holes lined up and get those screws in, and we will pretty much be done with our chassis build, and we'll be ready to move on to talk about our electrical build. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to pause the video while you work on that part of it, and then we'll meet back to talk about wheels. Okay, we're ready to do kind of the last piece of that chassis, and that's to take these wheels, you should have 2 of them, and put them onto the motors. You might want to note that there's like kind of a round end, and then there's these flat sides, so you do need to get those lined up because it will only push in that way. So if it does not look like it's going all the way in, it very well could be that you don't have it lined up flat side to flat side. But once you do that, you'll have your base chassis, and then you'll be ready to move on to adding your okay, let's finish up this chassis build. You should have gotten out a breadboard and an Arduino. Let's start with the Arduino. You're going to take this out of the box. Go ahead and take that plastic like shield piece off the bottom. We won't be using that. You'll notice there's 4 holes on your Arduino, and they fit with the 4 hole like standoffs that you'll see on the board. So line those up. You should only need 2 screws to kind of get it on there, and if you try and put 2 extra, it's not going to work that well anyway. So take 2 of your screws and push those in. May have to do a little screwing to get it in, and kind of see if you can get 2 holes lined up. Like I said, the way these print, sometimes they don't line up perfectly, but if you just stick to 2 screws instead of 4, you'll get it in there enough that it'll keep it in place without trying to worry about all 4 screws in there. And then you have nuts that you can place You can get your finger in there underneath to kind of hold it in, just to keep it from moving around once we get these robots moving. So you can do both those nuts. I'm just going to show one. Now for your breadboard, it has a sticky on the bottom. I recommend, until you're sure you know where you're going to place it, just pull the sticky off like the corners. So you can do all 4 corners. In my case, I just did 2 because I tend to take these apart. But you're going to place that board next to and kind of press it down your Arduino, and that's going to allow you to wire in between the two. And we'll do one last piece. And just to show this, this is your motor controller, and you can go ahead and place that up here, and then you'll see in the next video, or probably more with the go ahead and get the PowerPoint out. You'll see the wiring that goes with this. The only thing I'm going to say is, I can see mine's been bent a little. Be careful to keep those prongs, and you're going to bridge it in between. So you have this trough here that keeps the current from going from one side to the other. You're going to bridge this board in between that, and that's kind of your base. You get that done, and you now are ready to move on to electrical and then code.